So this dramatic tale almost finds its climax. One day is what the Supreme Court has given the BCCI to give themselves an unconditional undertaking that they will implement each and every recommendation of the Lodha Committee. It's something we've never seen in cricket administration before. It's a tussle between the board and the highest court of the land. Sambit Bal, the editor-in-chief of ESPN Cricinfo, joins me to comment on the situation, as does Surit Parthasarathy, advocate in the Madras High Court, who's also written on this matter and, of course, has featured on our site before talking on it. Sambit, where does this leave the BCCI on the eve of what might be a historic day in both Supreme Court as well as cricket administration in India?
I can see only one likely outcome from whatever we have seen in the last 3 months. They have been given one day, and I don't really see BCCI turning a new leaf in one day, because if they wanted to, all that we have seen in the last 3 months is either stalling or open defiance. I don't think there has been an intent to even engage. So I can only see it going one way, that BCCI will come back tomorrow, say that we need more time, and the Supreme Court will pass an order.
Well, Surit, if I could bring you in, is this an orthodox way of the Supreme Court to deal with the matter, or has the BCCI left them no other alternative?
I mean, I'm not so sure about orthodox or unorthodox, but I do think that the BCCI has left them with little choice, because obviously Chief Justice Thakur is not only looking at what is happening in front of him in court, but there have been a series of interventions made by the BCCI in the press, especially over the course of the last couple of months. They've appointed different advisors to go about advising them on whether they should in fact follow the Supreme Court's order or not. But if you read the letter of the judgment, especially the later order on July 18th, if I'm not mistaken, it's very clear in that the Lodha Committee's recommendations are mandatory in nature, and that the BCCI needs to go about implementing that. Now, the BCCI has tried to find different ways to kind of deter on this, in the sense of either, in many ways, this is an open defiance of the Supreme Court's order. So obviously they've left Chief Justice Thakur with little choice but to kind of come down hard on them.
So this is the bizarre situation we find ourselves in. You might disagree with some of the recommendations, and there are sympathizers for the BCCI. I know some of you are too, but it is a Supreme Court order.
Yeah, I mean, it was possible even to feel sympathy for BCCI in this case, but they have painted themselves in such a corner. I mean, you can talk about judicial activism, you can talk about judicial overreach, but the fact is that the highest court of the land has passed an order. There's, if you defy that, it's like Parliament passes a law, you might not agree with it, but that's the law of the land. Otherwise, there will be anarchy. There will be civil disobedience. So we're not starting a civil disobedience movement here.
Sambit says it's unlikely the BCCI will change its course of action and provide this unconditional undertaking. What can we speculate, Surit? How bad can it get for the BCCI tomorrow?
I mean, I think it can get pretty bad. I would just like to sort of go back in time a little bit to the beginning of this dispute, because if we remember this, all of this commenced before the Bombay High Court actually. And this was sort of the real backdrop to this was the allegations of betting and spot fixing and all of that, those cricketers who were banned for that, as well as the other officials of Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals. Now, if you remember, the Bombay High Court, what it did was it said that the panel that the BCCI had established for the purposes of looking into these allegations was wrongly appointed. And therefore, it invited the BCCI to appoint a new panel. And rather bizarrely, the BCCI chose to appeal against this order of the Bombay High Court. Of course, the petitioner before the Bombay High Court also appealed to the Supreme Court. So the attitude of the BCCI right from the beginning has sort of been to challenge any kind of order that has been passed, which I think has not worked to its advantage at all. And it is ultimately kind of led to this situation today where, there has been an open defiance of the Supreme Court's order. What the Supreme Court says is the law of the land. And if it doesn't follow this order, it can get pretty ugly. The court can decide to exercise its powers of contempt, or it can sort of really, ensure that its orders are implemented through its own will, which is what it's likely to do tomorrow.
Are we seeing the same mistakes made by the Anurag Thakur regime as we saw that his predecessors make?
In some ways, it's been amplified further, because there has been clear examples of defiance. Even Srinivasan didn't defy the court. The court asked him to go, he went. He went reluctantly, but he went. And if we go back to that era or that sort of period, there's a precedent there. There was a board president which was appointed by the court. So here we have the prospect of the entire committee being appointed by the court.
But we just have to hold and see what happens tomorrow in the Supreme Court with bated breath. Unorthodox as this might be, but the BCCI seem to have pushed themselves in a corner. Thank you, Sambit Bal, for your thoughts. Thank you, Surit Parthasarathi, for joining us. And I don't think it'll be long before we speak to you again.